Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to put our ear to the chest, so to speak, and decode the secret language of the human heart. And trust me, it's way more complex than the simple lub-dub we all learned about in school. So let me ask you this. What if your heartbeat isn't just that steady, monotonous rhythm? I mean, what do all those little variations, the clicks, the splits, the gallops, what do they actually mean for your health? Well, that is exactly our mission for this explainer. We're going to learn how to interpret these super subtle sounds. You can think of it like learning a whole new language, one that tells us if the heart is healthy or if it's in trouble. All right, let's dive right in. Now, before we can even begin to understand the abnormal, we've got to know what's normal. So let's start there. What does a healthy, happy heart actually sound like? It's this. Ta-ta. Just two distinct pure tones. That first ta is one set of heart valves snapping shut, and the second ta is another set closing right behind it. Super simple, right? This clean rhythm, this is our baseline. It's the starting point for everything else we're going to talk about. Okay, now for our first variation. It's a pretty fascinating thing called splitting. And believe me, this is where it starts to get really interesting. So splitting is, well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. That nice, clean ta sound, it kind of breaks apart into this rougher tra sound. And why does that happen? It's because the two valves that are supposed to close at the exact same time are now just a little bit out of sync. It's a huge clue that the heart's internal timing has shifted. But here's the thing, and this is really important. Not all splitting is bad news. On the left, you've got physiological splitting. This is totally normal, especially in young people, and it's often just tied to your breathing. You take a deep breath, it changes the blood flow just enough to delay one valve, and boom, you get a temporary split. No big deal. But over on the right, pathological splitting. Now that is a sign of trouble. This can be caused by some serious stuff, like a blockage or really high blood pressure, that's forcing those valves way out of sync. All right, so things are about to get even more complex, and honestly, even more revealing. This is when the heart decides to add a third sound to the mix. These are what we call triple rhythms. And get this one. Faut, ta-ta, ro. I mean, that's not just a beat, it's practically a melody. They call it the quail rhythm because, no joke, it sounds like a quail's song. And that unique sound points to a very, very specific condition. So how does this little melody get made? First, you get this really loud, almost flapping first tone. Then, the normal second tone follows. But here's the kicker, the finale, an extra sound, a sharp snap. And that snap is the sound of blood forcing its way through a stiff, hardened valve. You're literally hearing the valve struggle to open. But, not all triple rhythms sound like a bird song. There's another one, and it has a much more ominous name. This one is a serious warning sign. Yeah, the gallop rhythm. The source material describes it with this really chilling phrase, the heart's cry for help. When a doctor hears this sound, it's an immediate, massive red flag. It signals severe heart failure, usually from something major like a heart attack. And it's called the gallop rhythm for a reason. It actually sounds like a horse cantering. But here's the tragic irony. Instead of being a sign of power, it's a sign of profound weakness. The two normal heart sounds get really faint, and this third, awful sound gets added, a sound created by a heart muscle that's been severely damaged and is now failing. So what's actually making that sound? It all comes down to the physical state of the heart muscle itself. A healthy muscle seat is elastic and strong. It handles blood flow quietly, no problem. But a weakened myocardium? It's flabby, it's stretched out, it just can't cope. So when blood rushes in, the muscle stretches and literally slams against the chest wall, creating that third audible gallop sound. Just incredible. And it gets even more detailed than that. Doctors can actually use the timing of that third gallop sound to figure out more. If they hear it right at the beginning of the heart's filling cycle, that's called diastole, it's a protodiastolic gallop. If it's at the very end, right before the next big beat, it's presystolic. It's amazing, really. Each little variation in timing pinpoints exactly where in the cycle the heart is struggling, which is an absolutely crucial clue for diagnosis. Okay, to round out our little auditory tour here, let's quickly cover a few other sounds the heart can make. Because trust me, the language of the heart is incredibly diverse. So, for example, you might hear something called a pericardial tone, and that could mean the layers around the heart have fused together. Or you might hear a systolic click, which is this little extra sound between the two main beats, often a sign of a floppy mitral valve. And then there's embryocardia. This happens when the heart is beating so fast that the first beat is loud, but the second one almost vanishes. You see, every single sound is a specific clue that points to a specific mechanical problem. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that these are not just random biological noises. Not at all. From a simple little split to a complex, scary gallop, these sounds form a precise language. It's a language that tells an incredibly detailed story about the heart's mechanical health and, of course, its distress. And that really leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? We've just spent this time exploring the unbelievably complex and revealing language spoken by just one organ. It's a true science. But it really makes you wonder, right? What other secrets are our bodies trying to tell us? If only we knew.